hope to have Mr. Ben Agunloye join us on the program as we look to expand our thoughts and focus this morning. Well, Mr. Ben, good morning to you. Can you hear me?
Good morning.
It's a pleasure to have you join us on the program.
It's my pleasure here too.
Please, let's get straight into the business of today, and we'll start at the very top, where a lot of Nigerians have mixed reactions to the news that following the 149th National Economic Council meeting, there was a postponement of debates on the commencement of state police, despite the surging killing and insecurity across major states in Nigeria. What do you make of this news?
Well, I think that obviously there are more urgent matters than the state police. The state police alone cannot solve the security challenges in the immediate. State police is going to require a lot of funding that I don't think that some of the states can actually afford. So I think that it was more appropriate to have looked at the security architecture and strategies that can be deployed. We need collaboration of all the security forces and of course of the people. The hunters, like we would always say, the vigilante, the market women, the man on the street, the retired forces. We need to build resilience. Because when you say state police, will you have state police in all the villages? Will the state be able to afford that? But there are people already in the villages and there are insecurities already on ground. So we need to look for what do we do to build resilience at the local level.
Now, I'm a little bit curious, Mr. Ben.
We'll be able to do that effectively.
Mr. Ben, as much as I'd love to agree with you, I'm a little bit curious because, according to reports, debates on state police were part of the agenda for the meeting. I might agree that there are more pressing issues, but with a death toll in the last 3 weeks, crossing over 100 Nigerians killed in Plateau and Benue, and recently in Kwara as well. Don't you think that news that at least a deliberation on the modalities and legal frameworks, if were to be discussed at NEC meeting, might have brought some respite on the families who are mourning the loss of the lives of their loved ones?
Yeah, what we're saying is, was the insecurity situation discussed? The answer is yes. Did we have the presentations and decisions on immediate actions that can be taken? The answer is also yes. When you say state police, even if we agree today that go and form the police, it might end up taking some state more than 2 or 3 years to be able to have them on ground. But the insecurity is already here. You see, like we always say about the principle of water, right? You cannot wait on, if you are already thirsty, you cannot wait until you sink your own borehole or well before you begin to drink. You would have to get the pure water or get the bottled water or get the water that is available so that you are thinking or thinking about how to sink your own well, right? That's the system. The insecurity is already here, the challenges are already here. So you need to look for how to coordinate the existing system to ensure that they deliver a more effective solution. How do we improve on intelligence gathering? How do we improve on information circulation? How do we improve on tracking and tracing? Sometimes it might be a little more investment in technology at the state level. I think that discussing permitting the states to possibly buy their own drones and maybe gather information on in their state may even be more germane and more urgent than talking about the state police. So to a large extent, I don't think that not discussing the state police is a discouragement to anybody.
Now let's look at some of the other deliberations that we have concrete reports on that they also approved following the conclusion of the meeting. More focus was tailored towards a $90 billion agric and livestock development plan and a textile board as well. There's commendable news coming in?
Well, it is commendable if they are thinking about agric and livestock if we are looking at ranching. But we also need to know where are the action plans, which are the states that are ready to engage it, where is this fund going to come from for takeoff, and how soon are they going to begin to take off. It's not just something that is beautiful and robust on paper. It's good to quote figures, 70 billion, 75 billion, 90 billion. That is a projection. But what is the immediate action? What is the low-hanging fruit? In the immediate, where are the states that have provided the land? What are the facilities that need to be on such land? How are they going to be fenced to ensure that the ranching in those states coexist with the farmers who are around without troubles? Because as it is today, farmers and herders have trouble in every state of the federation, not just in the north central, in the northeast, in the northwest, in the southwest, in the southeast, in the south. The issues are there.
Now, Mr. Ben, it's also on the mothball factories we have in the country. Remember when textile was one of our major exports in Nigeria? Now, what would you say would be the mandate given to this Cotton and Textile Development Board in your perspective? What would you hope that will be their mandate? Is it revamping some of the mothball factories, or how do you perceive that they will go about the business of expansion and transforming Nigeria's cotton, garment, and textile potentials?
Well, I believe that the council is necessary. I also believe that, of course, the National Assembly should be ready in the immediate to take up proper oversight function from the takeoff, to ensure that the timelines and the project defined in what the council should be supervising are put in place. Cotton, like cassava, like cowpea, is something that can be grown in almost all the geopolitical zones of the nation. And so to a large extent, therefore, we need to identify what brand they should grow. We need to identify where do we build the tannery, how do we process the cotton. It's not just planting it, but processing. So all the entire value chain, the entire cotton value chain should be put in the picture. But I think having a council is good enough. But then taking all the necessary action one after the other from the outset is also very important. And the National Assembly must just be ready to sit up to ensure that these things that affect the life of people at the grassroots are not just discussed at the paper and policy levels, but that they're actually active and on ground in the over 20 cotton producing states of Nigeria.
Now, it's also on the projections that it would generate over $90 billion by the year 2035. Well, Nigerians are yearning for quick fixes in terms of getting our economy back on track, with focus drifting more to a productive economy. The timeline, do you think that Nigerians can't wait for another long-term promise in terms of upscaling our economic fortunes?
Like I said, we need to see the actions that are taken in the immediate. Once you take the action, we should actually look at the result from the point of view of the multiplier effect. If you take action today that will resolve farmers' herders crisis in the next 1 year, on the overall, there will be increase in output and revenue from the agri sector, from the other sector, even before we now come to livestock. So we should not look at livestock as the one that is going to save us. No, it is not going to be. We shouldn't look at it in the immediate. But if the plan from the immediate takes us to ensure that the animals are no longer in the court, which means that the game can be played. I don't know if you get what I'm saying. The animal in the court presently is preventing the game from being played. So take the animal in the court away. Even if the animal does not immediately begin to give you revenue as you expect, because you needed to first of all invest, you should expect that because they are no longer creating losses, they are no longer creating disturbances, then in the immediate, the other sector will provide us the employment, will provide us the food security, will provide us even the export that we require.
Well, thanks for your insight on this topic. Let's move on to another subject in the news, and it's more of a political interpretation in terms of the calculations ahead of 2027. Now, we were told in good confidence that about 5 PDP governors are contemplating a defection to the All Progressive Congress. But the first to confirm this move is the Delta State Governor, Sheriff Oborewori, who has defected to the APC. And reacting to this, the acting national chairman of the APC, Damagun, is shrugging it off. He says that the 2027 election would be determined by Nigerians, citing reference to Peter Obi's performance in 2023's general election, despite not having a state governor under the Labour Party as at the time. What do you make of this party governor's defection to the APC? Does it hold sway, or is Damagun's comments on not needing governors to sway Nigerian votes credible?
Well, when Buhari contested in CPC in 2011, right? He also had no governor, no councillor, no chairman, no senator, nothing, right?
Yes.
It was a blank, brand new party, if you get me. But you will know that he made impact. He had about 11 or 12 million votes, as against even the 6-point-something million votes of Obi. So it tells you that as an individual, if you have the crowd, the people supporting you, you can make some measure of impact. Now, when we come to Labour, I think Mimiko was the first to contest under Labour as governor, and that was in Ondo State. He won the governorship. He had 2 terms. He won 2 terms on the ticket of the party. In 2011, all the senators, all the House of Rep, and the State Assembly from Ondo State were elected under Labour Party. That was very clear. So to a large extent, the people versus the authority, we can always say that is germane. But it may not be sufficient to run over the entire nation. If Buhari needed to align with some other parties before they could defeat the PDP, right? All the people and the crowd that gathered with Obi couldn't defeat the APC in 2023. Neither were they able to install even more than one governor. And to an extent, some of the effect they even have in the National Assembly election. I tell you that if the election were not held the same day, the momentum or the traction that they gained, if the presidential election and the senatorial election had not been the same day, the traction that the Labour Party gained in 2023 might not have been there. So to a large extent, therefore, Damagun knows what is at stake. The fact that the party is getting attrition, they need to, of course, look for where to show up. If people are going to be against APC, they would also be against the PDP. Right? The APC, for me, are more of the outsiders who have come together and are now inside. The PDP, for me, they are more of the establishment who are no longer in control. So if the people would be the one to determine, then neither the PDP does not have a higher chance than the APC. That's very clear.
Now, whilst these defections have been looked at from another angle, it's on the concerns raised of Nigeria tilting towards a one-party state. Do you foresee this as becoming the outcome should more PDP governors defect under a party that saw them clinch an election? It's also on the legalities of such defections, like we've seen, has been part of the issues that have greeted a state like Rivers, where the court's ruling has also been called into question on the legalities of running under a party, emerging as winner, and then dumping the party shortly after emerging into office.
Well, basically, what we need to see, the law has rules about lawmakers defecting, but not necessarily about the governor. But even for the lawmakers, it is agreed by the law that if there are issues disturbing the party at the national level from functioning properly, if you defect, you will not be liable. Now, when you defect, therefore, you need to prove, right, that the system is dysfunctional, or the system will need to prove that they are functional. Now, in the last 12 months or thereabout, who do you think is the secretary of the PDP at the national level? The secretary, for me, is so important to the party that I think he runs the secretariat, in my opinion. So if a party cannot tell you who the secretary is, some functional organs cannot meet, because the secretary is possibly supposed to call the meeting or is supposed to record, play one role or the other. So you will see that if a ship is sinking and you are inside the ship, you have the right to jump. But however, you would also know that, like in the case of River, it is not appropriate for three or four people to declare the position of 27 wrong. They should have gone to court before taking action. And then if the court says so they are wrong, then there is a pronouncement and you move. But be that as it may, we are not, in my opinion, in the danger of a one-party state. I see a situation where in some states where there are movement of government and movement of people, the opposition party should gain some members that are coming in. When Mimiko was in Labour in Ondo State, he moved from Labour to PDP, but that did not save PDP from being defeated in that election by the APC in 2016. So I think that we are not at the risk of a one-party state. Rather, we are at a vantage position where those who think they are concerned about the nation and they want competition and contest to be in place, to put their heart in the ring, to put their money where their mouth is, and to run. What some of the governors are trying to do is, number one, they want to survive. Number two, they do not want to use their state funds to run the PDP or any political party. They want to be able to remain relevant, but they also want to be able to spend more of their money for their state or for things that are important to them than to run coalition or elections that are neither to their own direct benefit nor to the benefit of their state. And you will know that 2 or 3 weeks ago, Saraki had already said that these PDP governors are not ready to fund any coalition. That's even before they went to meet in Ibadan and decide that they are not going to be joining any coalition. So it's about funding, it's about survival. It's about people not ready to spend, but they want to be able to talk big. And then you want the governors to corner the resources of their state to sponsor candidates that are not directly bringing any value to the state in the immediate or to their electoral position. An Atiku, for instance, or anybody in PDP will not be in Delta to campaign for Ogorowi. The governor in Delta will win if the people voted for him, if he has done what the people needed him to do. No candidate outside Delta. In the last presidential election, was he not? But they did not in the governorship election. I think they even did not come second. So it tells you that the dynamics are on ground. The governors understand their terrain and they will do what they need for their political survival. They will do what they need for the economic survival of their state, in their opinion. And I think that is valid.
Now, Mr. Ben, in terms of public confidence, what does it mean for a running mate of a presidential candidate in the last election to decamp to the opposition party? Does this in some way spell doom for the PDP's leadership structure, like the FCT minister has pointed to, saying that the party house is in shambles and he would not even be supporting them in any elections, be it presidential, governorship, or even senatorial aspirations in 2027?
Now, within the South-South zone that used to be the PDP enclave, what you want to check is, despite him being on the ballot in the last election, PDP did not win Delta. PDP did not win Edo. They did not win Bayelsa. Neither did they win Akwa Ibom. Okay, no, they won Bayelsa and Akwa Ibom, but not Rivers, not Edo, not Delta. Where he is from, he was the sitting governor at the time, but they lost. Now, he is not the first running mates to also decamp. In my opinion, Obi was going to Atiku in 2019, and by 2023 he was already in another party running. So it has to do with people playing the card of personal survivor. So if he thinks that his people had moved, then he had no choice remaining in the opposition. The structure he had built, the structure he had worked within, the people he had known in politics are all moving from PDP to APC. So he would rather move with them, because that is the only way he also can remain relevant. If he decides to remain in the opposition, what will he be doing there? That's the question. So to a large extent, like I said, the Delta people, the Delta government as of today, does not believe that they need the PDP to win or to survive. I think that is the position. So even him does not feel that his life depends on the PDP.
Now let's look at the position of the APC's national chairman, Dr. Agunloye Ganduje, who is so confident that 2027 is a done deal. He's also hinting that besides the Delta State governor, more governors would be joining the APC. Is it as done a deal, much like Dr. Ganduje thinks?
Well, you cannot say that 2027 is already a done deal. I think anybody thinking like that will be faulty. Although, however, for a politician in the class of Ganduje, he will be right to psych himself up and to attempt to weaken the opposition by those statements. If the government performs because they are already in power, 2027 will be a done deal. But if they fail to perform and the opposition is able to bolster collaboration and bring up a candidate that will be acceptable to the people, then the election in 2027 might just be a different ball game entirely. So we know that yes, there are sentiments as of today. There is the Sokoto Road, Badagry Road. If they are able to walk fast, there are people on that route who will possibly have a change of their business and they will campaign. If the coastal road is done, a number of other projects that they have in place.
I'm talking about the coastal road, Dr. Ben, sorry to cut you there, but talking about the coastal road, during the flag of the Akwa Ibom Calabar section of the road, we saw the Akwa Ibom State Governor openly endorse President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. His Excellency Pastor Moeno said that Akwa Ibom will be solidly behind APC. Now, I don't know if, like you're looking to make your point, you feel that this project would play a way in swaying Nigerians who live around those project sites, especially when a governor in an opposition party comes out outrightly to endorse a president in another party at the center.
Yes, like I said, some of those projects are important to the survival of the people in the belt. So if it is important to the people and it is actually done and pursued with vigor, then it will not be wrong for the people to decide to say, look, we stay with this government. Now, knowing fully well, one of the things you would have noticed in the activity of the APC at the national level is that they were not known for abandoning ongoing projects as against the PDP 16 years before them. There were even projects initiated by a PDP president that succeeding PDP president did not continue with. So they are less aberrant for what you would call policy somersault. They are not known for policy somersault or for project cancellation of abandonment the way the PDP are known. And so when one is likely talking from experience to know that, look, if we bring back PDP at the center, the chances are that some of these projects may be abandoned, and that will not be good for the people in his domain. Akwa Ibom for me is a small state to a large extent. when you compare it to Cross River, it's less than half or about half of Cross River State in landmass. So it means any road you pull through the stretch of the state will have impact on a large number of people and activities. They've got a lot of farm products, they've got a number of tourist things that people should do. So a good road means access to the market. A good road means improvement in tourism. A good road that goes directly to Lagos had a lot of impact on the economic life and activity of people on that route. So you should see Akwa Ibom, Delta, Bayelsa, Ogun, Ondo, Lagos encouraging that the government will finish that project. And if declaring an open support, but the government would encourage the project to be done quickly, I think that you can't blame them.
Well, I like your point on the impacts on the life of the people, and with that we'll come to another issue in the news. Yesterday we saw the IMF's managing director, Kristalina Georgieva, ask Nigeria and other countries to widen their tax nets and remove trade barriers. This is in line to response to global headwinds and the global trade wars that are ongoing. It's on the skepticism that greets the conversation of widening tax nets. Do you think that this is the best approach to ensuring macroeconomic stability in Nigeria in a time of what people are now calling the Trump tariff war?
Well, when you say widen tax net, right, it means that you are going to pay attention to the people. You are going to pay attention to records and data. If people do not earn, right, you can't ask them to pay tax. Tax is a function of earning. So if you are being told to widen tax net, it's actually saying that care about what and how the people earn. If your salary had not been paid for 10 months, nobody should be expecting your payee tax in FRS. So it means that as it's been done in some countries at some point, when companies are challenged and they have issues, of course there are some measure of survival or revitalization loan or grant that will also come from the government to ensure that those businesses can run, they can pay their salary, they can hold their minimal responsibility, and then the people are captured. But where you do not have the data, you cannot actually tell how many people should be paying tax and how many are paying. So I think for me that call is more of demanding responsibility on behalf of the government to ensure that they are aware of the economic status and well-being of their people. That way, when you say you are widening tax net, of course you are also ensuring that you know the people are actually earning.
Now, this is even for people who earn income. The other angle to this conversation is the market realities and how it is affecting startups in terms of the gaps in funding circles and the reports that most businesses crash within their first 2 years of startup owing to the current inflation rate and a higher cost of alternative energy to be able to run their businesses. How do we balance this conversation?
Yeah, that's exactly what we are saying. What IMF, in our opinion, is saying is pay attention to these businesses. Pay attention to these individuals. So that if they are not growing, if they are challenged, you look at what you need to do to remove their challenges. A lot of businesses are paying for darkness. Some are underpaying, but more people are overpaying. And so in the balance, the disco can afford to collect money for darkness and not improve their services. We are the Rural Electrification Agency, who was supposed to focus on renewables. Now, when you come to renewables, it's something that may be capital intensive at takeoff. So are you going to look at, okay, SMEs, let's give you money or grants to establish renewables energy in your business? Now, the recurrent expenditure on renewable energy is always very low, right? But the installation is high. So which means at the point of takeoff, you're giving me money to put in solar so that I have 24 hours power supply to engage in the business. Then over time, I can maybe 3 to 5 years down the line, because from the second year, I shouldn't be expending on energy that much. So I should be able to begin to pay back the loan. It can be a revolving loan, such that as people are paying back, new people can uptake them. Whether we like it or not, on power in Nigeria, we need mini grids, we need off grid if we are to get results. If we continue where we are, the TCN and the DISCOs and the GENCOs are going to run us all out of business and out of the country. But when you have some mini grids and you have off grids and they are stable on their own, the DISCOs and the GENCOs and TCN will need to sit up and improve their services so that more people do not go away from their network. So to a large extent, the IMF call, even though they will look at it from the tax angle, is a call for government to take responsibility and ensure that people who should be paying tax are able to run their businesses profitably so that they can pay the tax.
Very well said. Now, let's move on to another issue in the news, and it's Rivers State back on the front burner. The House of Reps committee supposed to oversight Rivers State had issued summons to the sole administrator, Vice Admiral Ibokete Ibas, retired, which he shunned in not giving an excuse as to why he was not there. But my colleagues in the media reported his attendance of the National Economic Council meeting. I don't know if you caught the clip of the committee members led by Professor Julius Ihoberev storming out of the session, having waited for him and having not seen him turn up for the summon. I don't know what you make of this situation in Rivers where disappointment is greeting that story.
Well, I guess we need to look at this. The original summon for me, the 24 hours notice, is too short for you to get a governor in a troubled environment to come and attend to you. Perhaps if you think you have an oversight over the state because there is an emergency, then they should go there at the cost of the National Assembly, not at the cost of the state, and then have the governor come out or wait to host them, and then they could have their meeting and they go back. So if you have so short a notice, the thing sometimes is that practically you who made that short emergency notice should wait to be disappointed because there is no magic wand anywhere. It's not the errand boy. He is yes doing a service to the nation, but it should not be dehumanized or be treated wrongly. Then when it comes to yesterday, one of the reasons the committee in the NEC or the NEC gave for not discussing police, state police, is that they have overshot their time with other events. So for somebody who has been in that meeting for so long, number one, he couldn't have left the NEC meeting to go and attend to the National Assembly call, as far as I'm concerned, because the primary responsibility of every state governor was to be at that meeting. And so you cannot leave a more important function, a more robust function, to begin to attend. So if they felt aggrieved that he did not show up, did they actually find out whether the meeting he was supposed to be in had ended within the time that was scheduled or not? So I think there should be less certainty. Governance should be a collaborative thing, and everybody should be seen to be doing his own function without necessarily disparaging the function of the other person. A gate man is a gate man, a driver is a driver, the director is the director. They all have their roles, and everybody must learn to play their own roles effectively without seeing the responsibility they carry as being more important than that of the other.
Very well said. Let's skip a number of issues and come down to another conversation off the back of the meeting. We hear that Nigerian governors have set up a committee to collaborate with security agencies in the wake of rising killings. I don't know what this committee is. Is it a joint task force? Details are still sketchy, as it were. But what are your hopes in terms of finding internal solutions, much like you had spoken about earlier in our conversation, to these peculiar killings in the Middle Belt, particularly Benue and Plateau states?
Yes, definitely there is the need for a new strategy, that we should be able to prevent attacks. If you say, oh, they move with motorbike, they move with this, they move with that, like I said earlier, if you have drones in place to do monitoring, and then you can gather information, you know when the mass movement is wrong, right? It is just like in those days, you have what you call the locust invasion, right? They were monitored. And so once there is information, in those countries where you still have locust issues today, what they do is to carry insecticides, load them in helicopters, and then take off and begin to deal with them. Not human beings carrying nets by hand. No. So it means that we need to do more monitoring, invest in technology. Let's have monitoring, so if the movements are wrong, there are command and control centers that can pick up this information, and then they can trigger action at the nearest point to this source of concern. And of course, there must be operational capacity to also respond to incidents. Like how do we see, when you check Google Maps and you are looking at Nigerian roads, on a lot of our roads, Google assigns a higher speed to the motorbike than to the car, because the roads are not good enough. So if the criminals had come on motorbikes, as they claim a lot of time, and they have an head start, number one, if they start with the car, they will be faster. But they already have an head start. They are gone for 30 minutes or 1 hour. And then you want to start pursuing them with the car. You possibly don't even know what direction they are going. But you can cut down that response time greatly if there is an helicopter less than 200 kilometers from the spot of the action. The chances are that they will be able to respond. But you need to gather information, like we said. You need the command and control center to be right. You need to form the relationship between the people. Like I would say, the market woman, the farmer, the hunters, the vigilante, the travelers, the drivers, the keke driver, the bike rider, the regular commercial bike rider in the environment. If there are, they all need to have a pool of information flow that can come into the system that can help with coordinated responses. And I think that strategy had to be immediate, because the danger and the impact of the crisis is escalating on a daily basis.
Well, our last conversation now will be on a World Bank report raising an alarm on the worsening oil revenue and poverty index in Nigeria. We're told that by 2027, 11 million more Nigerians added to the 133 that are currently below multidimensional poverty would be recorded. It's not such good news each time we look at these projections of how bad our situation is and how worsening it will be in the coming years. In response to this, what measures can the Nigerian government adopt?
Well, like we saw in the meeting yesterday, there is a discussion around the cattle, and like we said, if you do what you need to do with livestock, other farmers will be able to do the things they have to do. I was in a village in Nasarawa, I think, in the last 2 weeks. And I went around the village because the mission I went there for was going to be delayed. The function was going to be delayed. I went around the village and I never saw a single goat. So I asked a woman, how come there are no goats here? Oh, he said the rain is about to start falling. And that by standards here, everybody is expected to keep their goats or sell it off at the onset of the rainy season. Because as you can see, we farm in the front and side of our houses. And if you keep goats in the neighborhood, it will destroy the farm. So it tells you that in the absence of animals destroying the farm, people have capacity to produce more. Now, that I'm sure is not part of the factor or data that has been put together by the World Bank in whatever estimate they have done. Like we said, if the roads that are under construction were allowed to be finished, right, if the government gets serious about them, it opens up a number of things, and people within those rural areas are not going to remain poor, right? The old people who have by plantain in their farm and is rotting away in Delta and Bayelsa and Akwa Ibom will be able to pull that to the road. Oil mills will likely come up on that route to begin to produce palm oil because there will be a ready market. So a number of things that are being done, if we allow them to fester and to prosper, you are going to realize that the estimate being done by the World Bank will definitely not be there. Because I'm sure whatever they have done did not factor those emerging opportunities into the data that they must have used to arrive at their results. Yes, it is dangerous if we have 11 million more people coming into the poverty stream, but we may not come down that bad if a number of activities and ongoing processes are in place. We're possibly going to begin to rely more on agriculture and less on oil in the next 3 to 4 years, if indeed the schemes and the projects that are on ground are seen through diligently by the government.
Now, Mr. Ben, they used a catchphrase that somewhat depicts the struggle of the Niger Delta region over the years. The catchphrase they chose to use is rich in oil, poor in people. I don't know if there can be a change in this narrative following the environmental degradation the Niger Delta has suffered over the years of oil exploration and the continued calls for the IOCs and those involved in those practices to begin remediation.
Yeah, to a large extent, there is a need to pay more attention to the people, there is a need to pay more attention to the earth, there is a need to pay more attention to the host community, there is a need to encourage the IOCs to engage more technology, in my opinion, so that the impact on the environment becomes less. But again, where the infrastructure also available, you will realize that a lot of the people in that region can be resilient. They are resilient enough to diversify and to get results. Agriculture and tourism give opportunity and room to a larger number of people than oil exploration. So everything about the Niger Delta is not just oil, oil, oil. So the practical reality, therefore, is that anybody that is seeing them from the prism of oil and oil alone has not done justice to who these people are and to what they can do. Like I said, opening up the environment, improving the health facilities, improving the roads, of course, off-grid electricity. That's what I believe we should be running into. Give them more things that they will need to survive. And then you will realize that the resilience, right? If you do 10%, you will see that the people can add up to 30 or 40%. It is not everybody in the region that is focused on the oil and the oil alone. That's the practical reality. So it's high time we stop judging them from that point of view alone. They've got several other things, and we should be focused on allowing the people to thrive in their domains in the best way that they can. So their aquaculture, their agriculture, their commerce, their ability in the area of attracting tourism should be allowed to grow. When all that happens, you will get to realize that even if the government will continue to look at oil, the people will be able to survive with or without oil revenue flowing into the region.
Well, we must thank you, Mr. Ben Agunloye, for taking our time to speak to the issues in the news this morning. We appreciate you and wish you the best of the weekend ahead.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Always a pleasure. Well,